Hi everyone, Michelle Newberry here. I'm going to talk to you today about a way that you can keep track of trust account retainers for an attorney's office. I'm going to use the QuickBooks sample company, so this is set up as a design and landscaping services, but I'm still going to use this to show you how to do it. So if you go to accounting and go to the chart of accounts, you can set it up here to keep track of the retainers. So I'm just going to say new account, and I'm going to set up a bank account for trust. Now keep in mind this is just one way to do it. There are other ways you could do it as well. Okay, so this is the trust bank account, and then I'm also going to set up a client retainers account, and I'm going to put it in other current liabilities because it's technically a liability if the company has retainers. It's someone else's money. So I'm going to call this client retainers. So here it is right here, and what you could do is make sub-accounts for each individual client. And then when you're not working on that client anymore, after the year is over, you could make that client inactive to keep your chart of accounts from getting really, really long. If you make an account inactive, it's still there, it's just hidden. So let's pretend that we have a client, a first client, that's going to pay $1,000 retainer. So I'm going to pretend to deposit that money. So I'm going to deposit it into the trust account. And you could put the client's name here. If you sync with any programs such as Clio or MyCase, you may already have all the customer names set up in here, but I'm going to skip that part for now. And I'm not going to add it to the client retainers account. What I'm going to do is make a sub account for that. So what I'm going to do is actually add an account here. I'm going to set it up as an other current liability. And the name of this customer, let's say it's John Smith. You can do last name first if it's easier for you to find, or first name first, it doesn't matter. I like to use last name. But I'm going to put his name in here, dash retainer, but then I'm going to also click here and say it's a sub account. And you can start typing this in if it makes it easier. I'm going to make it a sub account of that client retainers account. And we're just going to say you put $1,000. You can put the payment method if you want. And I'm going to save and close. Okay, so now you see the trust account shows $1,000, and if you scroll down, John Smith retainer also shows $1,000, and the main client retainers account shows $1,000. So this $1,000 for client retainers should match the trust account bank account as well. It may not always match 100%. For example, if you put a small amount of money in the trust account to start it, it may not match. Okay, so let's now say that they've earned that retainer. So they're going to move it to the operating account as attorney fee or attorney income. Well, some people transfer that amount directly in their bank account, and then some people will write a check. If you're going to write a check, you just go up here and click on check, and make sure it's coming from the trust account, and right here under the account you would choose that account, Smith retainer, and it's for $1,000. And what they would do is write that check to themselves and then deposit it in their operating account. So now you can see that his account is 0, and the trust account is 0 as well because they took that money right back out. And you can click on the register and view the transactions if you want. Okay, so let's say they have another customer, and this time it's a new person, so I'm going to add a new account. Let's say this is Jane Smith. So I'm going to set up another sub account. And make sure I click this sub account right here. And save. And let's say she's going to do $2,000. Okay, so again, you can see up here the bank account has $2,000 in it. John Smith still has 0, but now Jane Smith has 2,000. Let's do another deposit. Okay, so this time we're going to add a new person. Let's say this is John Doe. So Doe, John dash retainer. And I'm going to make it a sub account of the retainer account. And let's say he puts in $500. Okay, so now the trust account is up to $2,500, and the total client retainers are $2,500, broken down between John Doe and Jane Smith. Now let's say instead of writing a check, they just transfer the money to operating. Now I want to caution you against using this transfer option here because it doesn't give you as much leeway when it comes to accounts. I prefer to just use an expense, just set it up as an expense. But then you also have to add that deposit, create a deposit for the operating account. So you end up doing double the transactions, but it just ends up working out better that way. So let's say we're transferring $500 of Jane Smith's retainer. Let's say for whatever reason they've done some of the work, not all, and they want to go ahead and transfer that to her, to the operating account. So now the trust account is down to $2,000, and Jane Doe's account went down to $1,500 instead of $2,000. So this still adds up to $2,000. So it still matches. And then of course I would have to do a deposit to operating here, or to checking, for that $500. This time when I'm putting it here, it would not go from her retainer account because at this point it is legal fee income, which, because this is a sample company, they don't have legal fee income. So I'm just going to go ahead and add it here. Because once it goes to operating, it's a revenue. It's an income account. So we would need to add it in there as such. And that's it. Now, like I said, I could have done a transfer, but when I do the transfer, it doesn't give me an option to put in that revenue for the operating account. It's just transferring it from trust to checking, and it doesn't give me the options to pull it from her retainer account, which I guess I could pull it from here, but then that's still not going to reflect in the trust account. So it's better, to me, gives more detail if you actually do expenses and deposits as opposed to transfers. And that's it. That's one way to do it. Another way you could do it is in the actual customer accounts. You could create invoices. That can be done as well. I personally like to do it in the chart of accounts. but you can do it here as well and just as well. The only thing that gets confusing here is you have to be careful to separate the way you enter the retainers versus the regular invoices for the actual legal work that you do.